request bill sponsorship or bill drafts. So with that, are there any requests for bill sponsorship? I should probably wait till my revisor gets seated before I ask that question, but are there any requests for bill sponsorship? Okay, seeing none. We are going to start on the bill hearing first because I know we have some guests. And I'll give a few seconds for everybody to get situated. You should have some testimony by Kansas State University. And I will note that there was additional written testimony submitted after the deadline that will be distributed to the committee as well. And that was submitted by Representative Roser on behalf of Riley County, Kansas. So they were a proponent of that, of HB 2120. Additionally, there should be a memo from the reviser of statutes about the bill. And with that, I would call on the reviser to do a brief explanation of HB 2120. Thank you, Jill.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. The bill before you today is House Bill 2120. This would authorize the State Board of Regents to sell and convey certain real property in Riley County, Kansas, and Douglas County, Nebraska, on behalf of K-State and K-State Vet Med. And so, just for you who are not as familiar with this, we always say the Board of Regents sells and conveys it on behalf of the university. So this is very typical language with that the Board of Regents actually is the one selling and conveying for the state of Kansas, not specifically the university. And this is just general language like we generally always put in, that the bill would require the deeds, titles, and conveyances to be reviewed and approved by the Attorney General. There have been times in the past where the property deed, which you can see printed there in the bill, have had minor errors. And so just in order to clear those up, we've allowed the AG to make those minor changes to the title to be sure they have the correct title. Then the sales would be exempt from a requirement of appraisal and from the state surplus property requirements. These are typically in a bill such as these. The proceeds from the sale would be deposited in the restricted fee funds of K-State and K-State Vet Med. The bill would become effective on publication in the Kansas Register. Sometimes you'll see statute book, and statute book is July 1 of that year, but I believe the university and the board wanted to get on this as soon as they could. So I believe that is why we have Kansas Register. I'd be pleased to stand for questions.
Thank you, Jill, for the explanation. Are there any questions for Jill? Representative Wagoner.
Jill, thank you very much for the report. I'm just wondering if you know, the sales would be exempt from KSA 75-3043 requirement of appraisal. And so why is there a requirement for appraisal if we just ignore it? I mean, I'm a little puzzled why, you know, if they're selling something, I don't know, is that normally standard procedure and this is the exception to the rule, or is the rule just always ignored?
Jill.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, Representative Wagner, you as the legislator are allowed, I mean, that is in your purview to decide if you would like to require them to meet that provisions of that statute, or even, I mean, I'm not saying this is a good idea, but if you wanted 5 appraisals, you could do that, because as the lawmakers, you're allowed to do that. And so it would be totally up to you all. I'm in drafting probably at least the last decade for the regions. I would have to go back and look exactly, but we generally have always exempted them from this provision. But you do not have to. You can require it, sir.
Are there other questions for Jill? I would ask one, and maybe this would be for the benefit of the committee, when it says the proceeds from the sales would be deposited in the restricted fee funds, can you explain to the committee exactly what that could entail? I mean, how much latitude do they have with restricted fee funds?
If I could get my bill and I could,
Yes, you may. Jill, you may proceed.
thank you, sir. So if you want to look at that more carefully after the hearing, I'm going to give you the citation because I'll quickly review it. In the bill, in House Bill 2007, it's on page 189. And for example, I am using the K-State Vet Med, but I believe the other universities are similar. So the restricted fee funds, they are limited to receipts for the following accounts: sponsored research, instruction, public service equipment, and facilities grants, sponsored construction or improvements. So there's a whole laundry list of things in which they can use that for and what can be deposited in there. It is a no-limit fund, so they could spend every penny on it on what those are able to be used for.
Thank you, Jill. So it appears that as long as it meets one of those statutory requirements, one of those categories, they have that latitude to take that expenditure.
Yes, I mean, it says, are they deposited in the treasury, credited to the account of the restricted fee fund, and then it's used for that purpose. So the university would decide which account in the restricted fee funds they wanted to use it for, and then they would use it for that purpose.
Okay, thank you, Jill. And so the bill doesn't specifically say which account they want to put it into. Is that correct?
They did not give me that information, and I don't ever recall a university in the past ever telling me we want it in this specific account of the restricted fee fund. I'd have to do my homework on that, but I don't recall that. It's just always the restricted fee fund.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Are there other questions from members of the committee? Representative Fairchild.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do we know who the buyer is going to be in this situation?
Jill.
Mr. Chairman, that would be a question to ask the universities. I do not know, sir.
Are there any other questions for the revisor? Seeing none, Jill, thank you for your presentation about HB 2120. Next, moving along, we will have proponent testimony from Ethan Erickson, Vice President for Administration and Finance at K-State University. Ethan, welcome to the committee.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman Howe, committee members. Appreciate the opportunity to speak in favor of the passage of the House Bill 2120. You heard the revisor mention this is giving Kansas State University Board of Regents the authority to sell two properties that we have, one in Riley County and one then in Douglas County, Nebraska. First up, let me talk a little bit about the Riley County property. That property is what we commonly refer to as the Unger Complex. That sits on about 6.5 acres, southwest, just directly southwest of the Manhattan main campus proper. The use of the property right now is primarily for administrative office type activities. And those individuals that are located, those programs, we're actually going to be able to move them back onto the Manhattan campus once we've disposed of the property. That helps us not only increase our space utilization of our existing facilities, but you'll notice in the testimony I also talk a little bit about just by selling the property, we're able to eliminate about $38 million of our deferred maintenance backlog just by disposing of that facility. and saves about $500,000 annually in operational and maintenance costs, which we'll be able to reinvest back into our other facilities that we have on campus. A couple questions, if you don't mind, Chairman Howe. I know there was talk about appraisals. Board policy requires us to go ahead and seek joint appraisals, and so we've already done that. We've sought 3 different appraisers independently that come together and offer us a joint appraisal, and that's how we've derived at about a $3.5 million estimated sales value for that facility, which we would then take those proceeds and reinvest that back into and helping with our deferred maintenance backlog that we have at the institution. The second property that we have is our our K-State Veterinary Medical Center seeks approval to sell the College of Veterinary Medicine building in Omaha. We originally purchased that building with the K-State Foundation and used that to operate a satellite veterinary clinic, a referral clinic, where our doctoral students participated in clinical rotations. However, we no longer do that in Omaha, and we've actually been in a multi-year lease with a company up there that just is leasing that facility. We've had interest from local entities in purchasing that building, and so that's why we're here today seeking that approval to sell that facility since it's no longer operationally needed for the university. Again, we've sought appraisals for that as well, and our estimated about $1.1 million is the appraised value that we would then sell the facility for. And again, we'll take those proceeds, put that back into renovating some teaching spaces in the Mosier and Trotter halls, and also updating some of our equipment in the veterinary medicine program. So in essence, what we're seeking today is, again, that legislative authority to sell those properties and then go through the process, working with the Board of Regents, appraisals, everybody to facilitate those sales, and then we'll use those proceeds and reinvest it back into the institution and our deferred maintenance backlog. Happy to take.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Ethan, for your testimony. We'll get right into questions. We'll go to Vice Chair Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So do you have a buyer potentially lined up?
For the Nebraska property, not yet. I think we'll probably end up putting that out on the market. On the Manhattan property, what we're looking at is a partnership with the K-State Foundation, as well as a local developer that is interested in converting the Unger complex into an affordable housing units. And so they're looking to procure that building from us, and they've applied for and received tax credits that can be used to help facilitate that conversion of the building.
And what's your asking price on both of the facilities?
We ask for appraised value. That's the minimum that we will accept on that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We'll go next to Representative Wagoner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Erickson, thank you. You helped explain a number of things that help put this in context. I am curious, the Unger complex, how many years ago was it built, and what was its original building price?
It was, when it was built, that's been a long time. It was originally this old State Farm buildings, Farm Bureau Association that's in Manhattan. And then I think over the years, we've purchased bits and pieces of it. The K-State Foundation actually owned a portion of it. So it's been in existence a long time.
But you have no estimate, it was a $10 million building originally, and this.
I don't have that, I'm sorry. I can tell you the replacement value of the deferred maintenance backlog is $38 million, and we're happy to get that off our books. Yeah.
Next, we'll go to Ranking Member Representative Amix.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Vice President Erickson, the current Unger property says it's going to be converted to affordable housing. Is that going to be student housing, or is that going to be public housing?
It'd be public housing.
Okay, thank you.
We'll go next to Representative Haskins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Vice President Erickson. So just, you gave us the information on the Manhattan property, but in Omaha, the operating expenses, are those covered by the sublease? Okay, so did the appraiser, sounds like you have like a plan for Manhattan. For Omaha, we're going to put it out in the open for bid. Did the appraiser give an estimate of how long this will be on the books until it gets sold? How's the market in Omaha? And
I don't have I'm not quite sure what the market is, but I mentioned we have received interest in
Oh,
people
okay.
to purchase the property. And the joint appraisal that came back estimated the value at about 1.1 million.
See that here. Thank you very much.
Are there any other questions for Vice President Erickson? Seeing none, I just have one last question, but did you get permission from the governor of Nebraska to sell this?
I don't think we asked.
Okay, I was just curious. He's an alum of the KSU Vet Med
Oh,
program,
okay.
and so just making the connection for fun there.
Thank you.
But yeah, we appreciate your testimony here. It looks pretty clear cut. I'm not sure how we're going to proceed as a committee, if we're going to try to run the bill or try to put the bill language in the budget bill.
Okay.
So there's a couple ways to skin the cat here. So we'll consider those.
Appreciate your help on this. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. I'm not aware of any neutral or opponent testimony. Was there any opponent testimony? Anybody here that was wanting to testify in opposition? Seeing none, we'll close the bill hearing on HB 2120. So next, we will consider budget recommendations for Emporia State University and Wichita State University. So we have first up on our list, Emporia State University. And so I'll give everybody a chance to get your budget summaries out and any supporting documentation you may need. Additionally, I'd like to bring to your attention, there was additional information submitted to the committee and distributed to the committee, February 3rd letter from President Hush from Emporia State University talking about the ESU cost model investment for 2024. So you'll have that information before you. I'm not sure many of you have had a chance to read it, so I will give everybody a chance in the next few minutes to read that letter. Okay, well, hopefully everybody's had a chance to at least read most of the letter. I believe my ranking member wanted the opportunity to comment or make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, we've had the weekend to go over, the budget and, to start off, why don't I go ahead and make a motion to concur with the LBC for FY 25 and 26 for Emporia State University.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to concur with the Legislative Budget Committee's recommendation for fiscal year 25 and 26 for Emporia State University. Is that correct? Okay. All right. So discussion about Emporia State University's budget. So I believe currently, right now in HB 2107, there is the $3 million regional stabilization funding in the bill. That was included in last year's budget bill as well. Are there any enhancement requests or anything that anybody on the committee would like to offer, or any other changes to their budget at this time? Okay. So with that being said, I will offer an amendment. And I apologize, I need to pull it up on my phone because I don't have it in front of, I don't have it for staff to pull up, so I'm going to pull it up on my phone. So if you bear with me for a minute. Okay, so I'll try to read this, and so I'd like to make a motion to provide one-time funding of 2.2 million in fiscal year 26 for unplanned and unreimbursed costs associated with the legal expenses and salaries and benefits owed to faculty who are let go through program reductions as part of KBOR's workforce management policy in September of 2022. As a result of the recent federal court order, Emporia State University remains in litigation with faculty whose programs were eliminated until the case is finally adjudicated. Is there a second? It's been seconded by Representative Haskins. We can have discussion on the motion now.
Since we had a, thank you, Mr. Chairman, since we had a motion from Representative Amix that I seconded, then wouldn't your motion have to then be a substitute motion that would have to be seconded?
You are correct. I should have offered that as a substitute motion. Will the second, Representative Haskins? Okay. So technically, I'm offering a substitute motion.
And then what, and then do I have to drop my second from his in order to have the discussion, or is that necessary?
No, I don't believe so. So is there discussion, questions? Representative Wagner.
Yes, no, thank you, Chairman. Interesting motion or proposal. So, but just fill me in, because some of these people let go were tenured people, that somehow they had some ability to sue. And so far, they've kind of won their case, but it's still out on appeal, right? I mean, I would think, surely the law can't be that a tenured faculty can never be let go when a university is downsizing. But do you know anything more about the status? Or, of course, the whole thing could be overturned on appeal and the university wins its case. But do we, I don't know, do you have any notion as to when that might, some final adjudication of the case?
That's a great question, Representative. I do not know a timeline. All I know is I believe through the Kansas Attorney General's office, I believe, has requested a motion to reconsider. And so the judge could potentially sit on that for a while, or perhaps could make a ruling, but I don't know if they're bound by a certain deadline that I'm aware of. And so this motion is to basically support Emporia State University in their effort to create efficiencies at their university. And I really feel like they've gone out of their way to try to do some hard things. And when the current president walked in, there were some things that perhaps were not tended to in an efficient way, or perhaps the legislature wasn't aware of some of these challenges going on. I'm not sure, but it was KBOR's policy that came under fire. And so now Emporia State seems left holding the bag of like, well, by court order, they have to come up with this money somehow. And I don't really feel like letting them just wither on the vine and trying to come up with it magically on their own. So I know their margins are pretty tight, and so that's why I'm offering the motion. Representative Amix.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did I understand you say in your motion that this is a one-time deal?
That is correct. In my motion, I did state it was one time.
So if in a year from now, we're having to consider this again, it's got to be under a different motion, right?
I would defer to the reviser if she had any explanation of the way I made my motion and whether that would end up in the base budget bill for next year. Magically, I guess.
Mr. Chairman, I mean, that really would determine or be determined by what the the Special Committee on Legislative Budget determines. It would be flagged by KLRD as a one-time, but what you would end up seeing in the bill would be whatever the Legislative Budget Committee determined.
Thank you. And I'm just making sure that it's a one-time payment. Okay, thank you.
Yes, in my motion, it was for fiscal year 26. And before that, I said one-time funding of 2.2 million for fiscal year 26. Representative Potter Partial.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question would probably be for the reviser. Would this have any impact with us giving money specifically for a legal issue on the lawsuit, so it wouldn't impact it negatively? That's my main question.
Jill, you may or may not. If you'd like to comment, Jill.
Mr. Chairman and Madam Representative, since it's pending litigation, I really don't think it'd be appropriate for me to comment on that.
Representative Fairchild.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could you provide more of the details of the litigation and what exactly has been going on? I haven't really done a lot of research into the details of it. Are they being sued by the professors that were let go who said that they had a right to employment that they shouldn't have legally be let go? Can you explain the details of the litigation?
Yes, I believe so, without knowing the exact number of parties involved in the litigation, but that's basically what happened, as I understand it. There was grievance filed in the courts or having been terminated, having their employment terminated at the university. So they're seeking recourse through the legal system on that.
So they're just seeking money. They're not seeking to get their job back.
I can't speak. I haven't had direct contact with anybody on that side of the ledger. Pretty much all the information I've received is from what I've read and what's been reported in from the court cases. I'm not sure if if everybody's seeking their positions back, but I do know they have been receiving compensation for a while now. Representative Haskins?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm glad to see this motion. I was thinking about this motion myself over the weekend. When asked on Friday to my colleague, the president did share an update on the lawsuit and where they're at. And he did conclude with the fact that it would be a $2 million burden to the university. And I would also state that even though that the decision itself is definitely a unique decision for institutions to make, it was made under an agreement, a unanimous agreement by the Kansas Board of Regents that they can go ahead and move forward with this. So it is, they follow the rules, and now the rules have been challenged, and now they have to continue to fight to see how much it will cost the state. And until that time, I see this as more of, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Chair, but this conceptual amendment is specifically for legal fees, not for anything related to anything of the other items based on the letter, correct?
Thank you for the question, Representative. So I'll just read verbatim what I came up with. So it would be Emporia State University for one-time funding of $2.2 million in FY '26 for unplanned and unreimbursed costs associated with legal expenses and salaries and benefits owed to faculty who were let go through program reductions as part of KBOR's workforce management policy in September 2022. Then it goes on to say, as a result of a recent federal court order, Emporia State University remains in litigation with faculty whose programs were eliminated until the case is finally adjudicated. Representative?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And so, and the legalese is not my expertise, and I didn't mean to rhyme, but I'm asking the reviser, Jill, is if that language is specifically in there, they are bound to only be able to spend it based upon what the motion is for or the amendment. Is that correct?
Jill?
This is one of the, Mr. Chairman, this is one of those questions that there will be instruction or in the committee report, the KLRD would write that that's what these are for. In the past, we have had legislators who want to be sure that that's what it goes for and draft a proviso, but that is really up to the legislature as a whole, whether you want to add a proviso of specifically what they're for. Because we'd probably want to make, I mean, we'd discuss it, I would discuss it with KLRD, but we'd probably want to make a separate account for it, for you to be sure that that's what those monies are spent for.
Thank you very much there, Jill. And with that and listening to my colleagues' concerns, and though I do not want to, I'd be happy to review the proviso. I don't need to write the proviso. I would suggest that I would suggest that there would be a unique account associated with that in which the funds can only be drawn on based upon what amendment is for. So therefore, if there is a court case, a freeze from an appeal, then the funds would not need to be dispensed and can be returned at the end of the fiscal year.
I would accept that type of conceptual addition to my conceptual amendment, if it's okay with the committee. I don't know if you need a second that. Is there any objections? Okay, seeing none, we'll get crafty on the language on that. And perhaps if we get this budget committee report drafted, and I don't know, Jill, if we would have a proviso language drafted in time for the budget committee report when we report that out to appropriations or not, but people could object to the budget committee report because of whatever language. Is there any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close on my motion and we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So the substitute motion has been adopted. So we're back on the okay. So the correct words, we're back. I have to renew the motion as amended.
I would renew my motion to concur with the LBC recommendation Emporia State University for FY 2025, FY 2026 as amended.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Seeing none, I guess we'll proceed. Ranking member, if you'd like to close on your motion.
I close.
We'll go ahead and proceed to vote on the budget recommendation for Emporia State University as amended for fiscal year 25 and 26. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now start recommendations on Wichita State University. And so please get out your folder for Wichita State. As you will remember, I believe there was two distinct requests. Wichita State had, or actually one primary request. Then there was another request that would go through Wichita State University's budget. But is there anything from the members of the committee? Vice Chair Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have an amendment. My amendment is that we add $5 million SGF to the aviation research account. This will bring the funding to a total of $15 million.
Okay, is there something that was being handed out to the?
This is for FY 26, yes.
Okay. Was there any language that needs to be distributed by staff or? No? Okay. Is there a second? It's been seconded by Representative Sawyer. Okay, so this would add 5 million SGF to the aviation research account for fiscal year 26, bringing the total to 15 million. Okay, is there a discussion? Representative Sawyer.
This is money we actually added last year in 2025, and then the LBC deleted it for 2026. It's much like the situation we had with the community colleges. It was money we put in last year, but then got deleted by LBC. But it's an important program. You know, Textron employs over 11,000 people across the state of Kansas. They got over $1 billion investment. Most of their competitors are foreign competitors that get a lot of subsidies from their governments. So this research is extremely important at helping Textron maintain and add jobs across the state of Kansas and improve their products.
Is there other discussion on the motion, Vice Chair Sanders?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to also add, to amplify the point of the representative from Wichita, that depending on what day of the week it is, Textron or Spirit is either the number 1 or 2 employer in the entire state of Kansas. And they really need this money so that they can maintain the employment levels they have. And they would actually, if there were funds available, would like to expand it. And not only funds, if there were people available, they would like to expand. So I think this is a very needed thing.
Is there other discussion on the motion? Representative Wagoner.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had somewhat understood that this was going to be presented, and I think my negative appraisal of it would be, I mean, Textron, I mean, just Google them. Their fourth quarter sales were our Textron Aviation, which of course Textron is a totality of a big corporation, but 1.3 billion. Fourth quarter 2024 sales had $100 million in profit. In fiscal year 2023 in the fourth quarter, somewhat maybe higher sales. They had $193 million profit. I mean, again, we're asking truck drivers, waitresses, regular folks to be kicking in money for a company that is is a great company. I mean, I actually know people who work there, and they love Textron. Textron, there's a lot of good things about it. But I'm saying that the fundamental, I mean, it's just a sticky wicket of getting involved with not even a startup. This is like literally a going company and just kicking in something, just to make them happy or just, I don't know, at somebody's behest. I just think it's wrongheaded. And we're still, if I understood the original motion correctly, this 5 million is just part of a 10 or 15 million that this is just a reduction. I mean, I don't think it's that much to ask. I don't think it's at all anything to ask for this, and I would urge members to vote it down.
Next, we'll go to Vice Chair Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, yes, Textron does make a lot of money, but if they're going to maintain this, and given the fact that they are the one or two major employers in the state, and their problem at this point is not sales. They have plenty of sales. They just don't have the capacity to, because of employment, to build the number of aircraft they want to build. So I understand your concerns, but this is a big employer that creates a lot of taxpayers.
Is there any other discussion on the motion? Representative Haskins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't think it'd be a surprise to say that I support this. And I would just add to the conversation that the money is going to Wichita State to support their student development. And yes, Textron will be a partner within that, which again supports the need for post-secondary as well as secondary to partner with business and industry to make sure that we're developing the workforce in the state of Kansas. And, Panasonic is a very wealthy company too, but yet we give incentives and give to encouragement. There needs to be not looked at as like we're just giving money straight to the business and industry, because that can take us down a rabbit hole that we'll never get out of, and look more about the purposes to give money to students so they can continue to learn and then make the investment. Also, Wichita State students will stay largely in Kansas after they've completed their education. They demonstrated that in the presentation. So I think this is a good investment, and I support and thank the Vice Chair for bringing it forward.
Is there any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Vice Chair Sanders, you may close on your motion.
I close.
Okay, it's been all in favor of the motion to add 5 million SGF to the aviation research account, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, other considerations for Wichita State University's budget for 25 and 26. Representative Sweeley.
I'd like to make a motion for an amendment to add $750,000 for one-time spending for fiscal year 2026 to fund a feasibility study for a dental school that is a joint effort between Fort Hays State and Wichita State.
Is there a second? It's been seconded by Ranking Member Representative Amix. Discussion on the motion. Representative Potter Marshall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Granted, I was listening in on WebEx and I had a 1 and a 2-year-old yelling half the time. Did you or somebody else in the committee state that there was a study from another university that cost 1/3 of this price?
Thank you, Representative. I believe I asked that question, and I was maybe comparing apples to oranges, but K-State University had requested the year before a feasibility study for their animal diagnostic lab. And I believe the president of Wichita State commented in response to that question of the difference in cost is that it's a more complicated project. So it was kind of a general response, but I do remember he emphasized that it was just maybe more layered because it's a medical profession and not and it's something completely new. And the animal diagnostic lab has been around for a long time.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Sanders.
I have a question for the maker of the motion, if that's permissible.
You may, Vice Chair.
Okay, so why $750,000? That's considerably less than what they were wanting.
Are you going off of the PowerPoint presentation that said it was 5 million? For some reason, I believe that number is off. I don't know if it was a mistake on their end or whose end, but from my understanding, it's been always around $750,000 to $800,000 for that feasibility study.
So Vice Chair, as I understand it, on the sheet that we got, this is for the study was for the design phase of it. And so I think they were trying to make a good faith effort to realize the crunch the state's in. And so if we would fund this small part first, then we could circle back with considering more appropriations based off of the feasibility study. That's my understanding. Vice Chair Sanders.
Given that, I can support this.
Is there any other discussion about the motion? If not, Representative Sweeley, you may close on your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't look at this very much differently than the other scholarships and things like that that we've been appropriating in this committee. You know, the state of Kansas does not have a dental program, and we are losing students every year. Or we do a program that exchanges students with UMKC, and like they said, in the KC metro area, we're losing a high number of those students to that KC metro area. And like we've said multiple times in this committee, doctors, dentists, veterinarians, almost every specialty profession that we're having is not going to these small town or rural town cities in Kansas, and it's kind of just getting left out that we're going to the big cities and that's it. So we're seeing a decline in dentists, and I think that this is a good effort in seeing continuing the care that Kansas deserves. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. He closes on his motion. All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We're back on the budget recommendation for Wichita State University for fiscal year 25 and 6. Is there any other considerations? Seeing none, what is the will of the committee? Vice Chair Sanders.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we approve the LBC budget for 25 and 26 as amended.
Is there a second? It's been seconded by Ranking Member Representative Amix. Is there a discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. With that being said, I don't know if there's any other business for today, but does any members have any questions about the schedule this week or anything on the horizon? Okay, yeah, Representative Sawyer.
I do have a question. You know, Thursday we're having that presentation dealing with a bonding authority. So what is our intentions after that?
That's a good question and something I haven't ironed out yet. So I thought it would be in good order based off of my conversations with the Chair of Appropriations because he, you know, for some of these bonding requests, they're for existing projects. For example, Wichita State, the stadium project, we authorized them bonding authority already. However, based off of new estimates on portions of the project, they need more bonding authority. So they're coming back requesting that. And so instead of running individual bills on bonding authority request, we're considering adding some of that, if approved, in the budget bill. So we're not adding to the statute books and things like that. So that's my understanding.
Thank you.
So this hearing will give us a chance to flesh out all those requests, and all those universities that do have a request, they have a chance to make public what their intentions are, what they want to do, and we can at least vet it through this committee. Vice Chair Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is it still your intention to not have a meeting on Friday?
Currently, it's meeting call of the chair on the calendar, so we're just keeping that as a flex day right now. Things may come up that we would need to meet, but hopefully we'll be concluded with our budget recommendations by then. Representative Wagoner.
Yeah, I just want to throw in on the House Bill 2120. I would tend to say if we ran it as its own separate bill, it would kind of get through the process quicker because it's part of the budget has to go from here over to the Senate. I mean, it's going to be a lengthy, I mean, it seems relatively simple enough. You know, and I would think the fact K-State would probably want to get their hands on the money as soon as they could sell it. So, I mean, the sooner it's on the market, the better for everybody is just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Representative. And I believe, I have to go back to Jill, is that by date in the statute book or the fiscal year? I can't remember if it's the Kansas Register, so that would be published in the next available publication. Yeah. Right. So, yeah, the way it is worded, it would still probably be a faster timeline. So I do have on the agenda for bills previously, possible bill action on bills previously heard. So that's on the calendar for tomorrow. So if anybody has objections to us working the bill, let me know, but we will probably work the bill. That way we can report it out. Leadership can make their determination what they want to do with it. So thank you for bringing that up, though. Anything else? Seeing none, thank you for joining us, and this concludes the meeting. Meeting is adjourned.